the Russians withdrew from Kherson, of course, which is the only regional district capital that they had occupied, and it is part of Russia. The annexation took place, the assimilation. It's Russia, and Russian troops left. They withdrew, pulled back to the other side of the river, and there's a lot of people right now who are upset about that. Especially a lot of our Russian listeners. They're very upset, and a lot of people are asking me for my opinion. And I thought that maybe the best thing to do was put it in writing. So I took the time to put down some thoughts, and we published it on the Substack. And what I tried to do is put it in a perspective, why such a thing would take place, et cetera. And, best thing is to read the article. But what I'll do is the basic takeaway is take a deep breath and don't panic. This is not a Russian defeat. This is not a Russian surrender. This is part of the stabilization of the situation and the special military operation that had become destabilized back in September, when Ukrainian military that had been pumped up with tens of billions of dollars worth of Western equipment, training, intelligence, communications, operational advice, carried out a counterattack against a Russian military that wasn't prepared for that. The Russian military was organized and equipped to carry out a special military operation against the original Ukrainian army, the one that they were destroying throughout the summer of 2022. And Russia's been on their back feet ever since, trying to consolidate a very difficult position. And when General Surovikin took over, he said the situation is very tense and some very difficult decisions are going to have to be made. And right off the bat, he sort of tipped his hand by evacuating civilians from the area. That's probably the most responsible thing a military commander can do, is take civilians out of harm's way. There was some concern that the Ukrainians might blow up a dam further up the river, sending a 5 to 15 meter high wall of water sweeping down, killing thousands, and so you get people out of harm's way. And then the other problem is that the situation on the left bank of the Dnieper River, where the main city of Kherson is, was logistically unsustainable. The Russians, were fighting very well. Any concept that the Ukrainians were defeating it was absurd. As the general noted, 12,000 Ukrainian casualties, 7 to 8 times that which were suffered by the Russians, which means the Russians suffered between 1,300 and 1,500 casualties. That's a lot of guys on both sides, but it's a lot more guys on the Ukrainian side. But the Russians took a look at what was going on and realized that in order for them to maintain this kind of casualty ratio, they had to be able to support and sustain their artillery. And their artillery was not able to get the ammunition resupply necessary because all the bridges across the river had been blown up. You're relying on pontoon bridges, but the Ukrainians were using the HIMARS and the M777 artillery to take out these bridges. And the Russians were in a situation where if they chose to fight for this territory, they would defeat the Ukrainians, but they would lose a lot of guys. And the commander also said, why are we losing guys for this territory at this time? And the answer was, there's no good reason. So why not pull them back across the river, consolidate your defense, save potentially 3,000 lives so they can live and fight again another day. And the last thing I left the reader with is the reality that only 80,000 of the 300,000, only 80,000 of the, I'm reading this thing, flooding is not resolved by moving out of Kherson. Hey, buddy, they're not in Kherson. And the floodplain may be there, but they're away from it. They're not going to be swamped, and they're not going to be on the wrong side of the river when the flood hits. So back off, okay? If you're going to put a comment like that, make sure you do your research first. Make sure you understand the operational parameters that's going on. If you're on the right side of the river when the flooding comes, all you do is pull back, and you'll still be on dry ground. But if you're on the wrong side of the river and the flooding comes, not only are you flooded, but you're trapped. And that's never a good thing in warfare. I probably shouldn't read those things. I was in such a good mood. But
everything is fleeting. Everything is
only 80,000 troops have been deployed into the special military operation, and these have been absorbed by existing units to help beef up the defenses. There's over 200,000 guys that are still getting trained. They're being formed into combat units of a division size, and there's going to be 10 to 15 divisions coming in. That's a game changer, guys, and they haven't come yet. And when they do, I think you're going to see a completely different reality on the battlefield. So, yeah, things are tense right now, as the general said. But he has also said that they have finally stabilized the situation. And the other thing about it is there's no panic on the part of the Russians. There was no panic coming out of Kherson. There was no panic when the general briefed the marshal. There's no panic now. The Russians are doing business and they're doing it well.
Is this Kherson retreat a part of some deal Putin has made or was forced into making?
No, I mean I respect Colonel McGregor, and he, of course, is a man of great experience and sound judgment, and he has his opinion, and I respect it. I disagree with it on this case. I don't believe that these on-site inspectors, and I believe he was talking about them. He was somehow he was portraying them as sort of an advanced team, advanced operations, going in there and preparing the ground for a larger influx of American troops. The president of the United States has made it clear he ain't putting boots on the ground. Now, of course, depends what kind of boots you're talking about, because we know that there's CIA paramilitary boots, and we know that there's special operations boots on the ground right now doing some logistics preparation. That's not me giving away national secrets. The Department of Defense newspaper, the Stars and Stripes, published a very detailed article about this. So
we're talking about boots on the ground, baby.
Boots on the ground. On-site inspectors, Colonel McGregor believes that they're part of an advanced party for a larger force. I think they're exactly what they're sold as being, an on-site inspection team there to determine, ascertain the the accounting for the weapons that we shipped. What happened to them? Are they still in storage? Have they been deployed to frontline combat units? Have they been expended? Did they malfunction? Have they been captured? And their job, because the term on-site inspector is different than auditor. An auditor is a person with a clipboard who comes in and just counts things. An on-site inspector, and I know because I helped write the book on on-site inspection, is a forensic inspector. Somebody who's going in and doing forensics, reconstructing events based upon fragmentary data. And the reason they're doing this, I believe, is because of what just happened. What was it? 2 days ago, an election, midterm election, where it looks like the House of Representatives, at a minimum, has flipped. It's now Republican, not Democrat. So that means that the current Congress is a lame duck session. And it appears that Biden, knowing that the Republicans might be a little bit reticent in rubber stamping anything he puts in after they come into power, Biden's going to try and jam $40 to $60 billion worth of aid through this lame duck Congress. It's a virtual guarantee that this Congress will approve it, except now people might start asking questions, uncomfortable questions, like what happened to all the stuff we sent before? Some of the stuff's been found on the black market. Do we know what happened to the stuff? Are we just going to give another $60 billion worth of equipment so that someone can go to the black market and terrorists get it and attack us? And now the Pentagon is going to be in a position to be able to answer that question because of these on-site inspectors. So I don't believe that those are boots on the ground now. And I don't believe Americans are going to send troops. The Russians have made it clear that that's a red line. And it's a virtual guarantee that Russia will fight anybody who comes in. And that means that it's going to be direct force on force between the United States and Russia. And that basically means World War III, nuclear war, the end of the world.